what's up? It is, yeah, I'm shocked that we're starting. It's the mailbag. We're doing another mailbag, Brandon.
Another mailbag. They let us on again.
Well, so I do have the ability to stream live whenever I want to. So unless they just disconnect the feed, yeah, they're going to keep letting us go live. But I think we did a good job last week. We went a little long. I'm working on my hosting duties. I'm going to try to keep this a little more succinct. Or not, whatever. We'll go as long as we go. So appreciate everybody joining us again tonight. Appreciate everyone jumping in with questions. Bindles, GM. Good morning, good men. GM. Okay.
Maybe he's from overseas, so maybe it's Sunday morning.
Oh, hello, mate. Hey, Matthew, Kirk. Who else is in here? Lawrence, Thomas, JN, everybody that's in here. If you're in here, we say hi. Please hit the like, though, if you could. We appreciate that. Help get those views up. And feel free to hit share. I think you want to just go ahead and get to the questions. What's up, War Daddy? Appreciate you coming in. What's up, Sloppy Herman? Oh, I wonder if he's related to Sloppy Eric from the Discord.
He could be, or maybe he's the same person. But yeah, let's get into the questions. I think that's why people want to talk to. I don't think they want us to tell them when they're coming in, like we're bouncers.
Right. Boom, Lou. He's got a 10 team start 9, and Lou is from our Discord community. 10 team start 9, 2 QBs, PPR, no tight end premium. What moves would you make to this roster? He's got Lamar, Geno, Dart, Lamb, Neighbors, London, Marvin Harrison Jr., James Conner, Jaylen Warren, late round rookies running back, Bowers, and Ferguson and Sanders. Jatavian, I'm guessing that is, not Shador.
It's interesting because
so it's 10 by 9, right? So we need a shit ton of hammers, right?
Yeah, it also needs like I'm looking at this team. It's probably got enough at quarterback in Lamar and Geno, and then you can just rotate in between Geno and Dart. You hope Dart starts by the middle of the year. You got plenty at wide receiver, and I think that's where you probably can start to like maybe make a case for trying to maybe move like James Conner and Drake London to maybe get a hammer at running back. Does that get you into the tier of Jimmy? That doesn't get you into the tier of Gibbs and Bijan, but does it get you Brees and something else back? Because I feel like looking at the team, that's the space that you need the most help, right? Is the running back room. James Conner, Jaylen Warren, and a bunch of late round rookies. Like that's probably not going to stack up in a 10 by 9.
You absolutely need some help at running back. In a start 9, to be starting James Conner and Jaylen Warren is less than ideal. Late round running backs, I'm assuming, we're talking about Sampson, Tootin, it might be Giddens. It doesn't matter, really. It's one of those dudes. Like, it's a wish and a prayer. Taj Brooks. Sure, one of them could come through. I don't know, man. I think I'd be looking, I'd be looking to, man. Yeah, I mean, because you have Lamb and Neighbors. That's it, like, though. Really, that's the eliteness you have.
That's why I'm like, do you take the name of like Drake London while he's still in like the top 12 dynasty value before he just stays stagnant? Because like he's not going to go up, right? Like you feel like each week.
I mean, if you look at the splits with him and Michael Penix. Now it was only 4 games, but Michael Penix absolutely helped his stats. He was averaging something like 20 points per game.
So then, do you move Marv?
Does he have that juice to get you anything? And then what am I getting back? Because the problem is I need a hammer plus, right? So really, if I'm moving anyone, it's probably Lamb or Neighbors, but I don't want to do that in a start 9.
That's why I'm trying to think. Like, can I move what with Marv gets me like Bucky plus?
So like Bucky in a first.
Yeah, like can I do that? Like so I'm trying to get creative here, right? Like I'm not going to be able to get into the tier 1, right? So you're not going to get the 101, which is Genty. You're probably not going to get a 102, which is Hampton. You're probably not getting Bijan and Gibbs. You can scratch those guys off. So now it's like, okay, what's the next tier down? Brees. Do I want to go Brees? I don't know.
I kind of like where you're going though, right? Because I got to do something different, right? Because I can't just add things together and tear up. Probably not in a 10-by-9 because most people are going to have multiple guys like Neighbors, Lamb. Like the better teams are going to have a much better roster than this. So I guess I would look into like, what does it look like if I were to try to move London? What does it look like if I do try to move Marvin Harrison Jr.? Maybe, and I don't know if he had his draft. Well, obviously he already had his draft, so he can't even like move it up for picks this year. But like, could I move London for RJ Harvey and Caleb Williams? Not Caleb Williams. That's the wrong position. Caleb Johnson, something like that. You know what I mean? Like I'd want to add 2 running backs to the roster like that if I could.
Would you ever consider moving Bowers because it's a no tight end premium?
Absolutely. Yeah. And no tight end premiums. Look, I get the positional advantage, but at the high end, what's he going to score for me? If everything goes right, he's not putting up Travis Kelce numbers is the dream, right? But if it's not Travis Kelce numbers, we're looking at 15 points per game, which is very good, but it's not irreplaceable. It might be irreplaceable at the tight end position.
Because then maybe Marvin Bowers gets you into that elite running back tier.
Yeah.
And maybe somebody can kick back a Mason Taylor, a tight end 15 that I could just, when Ferguson is not starting, I've got somebody other than JT Sanders.
Yeah, so not to kick the can here, but I think we're looking at let's try to move Bowers. Let's see what we can get for Bowers. Let's see what we can get for London. Let's see what we can get for Marvin Harrison. Focusing on the running backs and picks because it's only 10 teams, right? So picks are worth more, obviously, because there's 2 less teams than usual. So that makes the 201 really the 111, stuff like that. So obviously picks are a little more valuable. Like this might be a league, like I don't know what the bench is, but can I get multiple 2nd-round picks too? You know what I mean? Just to take a bunch of shots. So I would look like, I think we're in agreement. We're looking to see what can we get done with Bowers, Marvin Harrison, or London. All right. Here, Big Diaz, another another dude from the community, from the DD Fantasy Football community. That's our Patreon, and most of these questions are going to be coming from there, but we will hit other questions. Diaz wants to know, what's your thoughts on rushing people that are on the clock in rookie drafts? Shane says, I already know what B-Dash thoughts are, unfortunately. So at Shane says, so he's asking me. So I think most people that know me know that I am a very patient person, very level-headed, never get angry or anything like that. Dude, I don't care. Look, we have a clock for a reason, right? If the clock is 8 hours, then they have 8 hours to make a pick. It's that simple. I don't feel the need to rush someone. We're doing rookie drafts in May, right? We're doing startups in June, and even in startups, not just rookie drafts, any draft whatsoever. I don't understand the desire to rush through it. And this is just my regular outlook on things in life in general. Why do we want to rush through things we enjoy? You know what I mean? Like we're in a hurry to get to the next mile marker. Why? Like enjoy the experience that you're having. Like you don't want to rush through sex, right? I mean, sometimes you do because, maybe you have some issues, but hit up Hims. They have help for that. But you don't want to rush through things you enjoy. And that's one thing that I've learned in life, and whether it's in regular life, real life, or whether it's just, in a draft, you enjoy this, man. Like, don't rush it. Just do it. That's me. I don't want to rush it. If it's a 12-hour clock and people are taking too long, well, you know what? Maybe next year, lower the clock. You know what I mean? Take a league vote, make it 6 hours, whatever. I don't really care. Just don't rush me. I don't care. Mr. Padilla, what's up, brother? He says, I don't care if people rush me. If I'm trying to make a trade, that I'm taking all the allotted time to make a trade. And that's right. I mean, that's however much time is on that clock is how much time I can use. The one thing I will say is it does suck if you sit on the clock for 7 hours and then trade the pick. And then the next person only has like, I don't know, worse than that, like 5 minutes left and someone accepts an offer. And like say you're at work or something and you can't make the pick and you get screwed. That's the only thing I would say. But I don't care, man. Have fun. And what was your stance on it, BJ? Because you were different.
I mean, I think he was just busting my chops because I was pushing his buttons in one league we're in. I don't really care. If you got 4 hours on the clock, you got 4 hours on the clock. I'm kind of with you. Like, try if you can listen, we all do fantasy football around our real life things, right? Most of us do not play fantasy football for real life. We don't sit behind a computer all day long and sit and click on MFL or Sleeper and sit here and throw 75 trades out, right? We're either trying to push trades while we're on a break or head into the restroom or, on the way to a meeting, and then we jump out of it and, you may have 35 more minutes left. Like, I think the biggest thing is if you're on the clock in a rookie draft and you're waiting for people to respond back to you, like, communicate that in some way. You don't have to say, "Hey, I'm waiting for Shane to respond to my message." I mean, you can be that dude, and straight up just call them out in the chat, or you can just say, "Hey, I got a couple pending offers. I'm waiting 30 minutes just to see if they respond back. If not, I'm going to pick." Because I think that lowers, because these are also your year in, year out trade partners. Like that's the other thing. That's the other flip coin of it is like, yeah, you can push them and nudge and like throw them off the deep end, or you might have a person that appreciates who you are, and it's like, hey, I remember that time you didn't push me during the rookie draft. Let's try to make a deal here. Like, it's just, I think the biggest thing is communication, and that's in life, right? That's not just a fantasy football thing. That's relationships, that's work life. Communication is definitely like the number one thing.
Right. And, look, Matthew, you just say you can take your time, but I can give people a hard time, but overall, I don't care. And I think that is part of it too. Like if I assume we're friendly if we're all in a league together, right? We should be able to bust balls a little bit, or vaginas, if there's women in the league. We should be able to bust genitalia without getting too upset. You know what I mean? There's a line you can cross, obviously, but at the end of the day, yeah, it's fantasy football. If you're getting that hype over how long someone's taking on a clock, maybe you should get some anger management issues resolved before you start playing a game. All right, let's hide this current comment. Let's get rid of Diaz's comment. Let's bring up Jeffrey Jacobs because I'm confused as to what I'm doing. But Jeffrey, what's up, friend? 12 teams, Superflex, PPR, half point tight end, premium start 10. He's the reigning champ with extra depth. He sent Sutton, Diggs, and got 226 seconds, one of them late.
I don't mind. I don't mind that. I mean, even if it's the mid one for Sutton and the late one for Diggs, like not making the bet against whether or not Diggs is healthy or not. Like, if he is, great. But really, what are you going to even trade him for at 30 years old coming off ACL? I don't think anybody's going to be like throwing 2026 first at you in September or October. Like, this is probably about where you're going to get. And I actually don't mind it.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. And, we were going to talk about liquidation a little later somewhere in here, I think, in the questions, and it's kind of that end. If it's extra depth, the one thing I will say, and we talked about a little about this on Mannequin Show on Wednesday, is just watch how close you cut to the bone. I had a few teams last year where I got extremely thin at wide receiver, and before I know it, when I looked up, I had absolutely no wide receiver depth, none, because I had 2 injuries and I was done. So I would say just watch how much depth you move. But if it's your wide receiver 6, your wide receiver 7, your wide receiver 5, it's someone that would maybe be like your 4th flex. If you had 4 flexes, I'm fine with a deal like that.
Yeah, I mean, and the reality is, if you have to use one to go back in, at least you have 2. You don't feel like, I only have one 2026 bullet.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Right. Yep. And Gabe. And if you don't know Gabe, he is from the fantastic All Gas Trade Show with Ty DeClaire, who is now a co-host with me on a new show on the YouTube Premium channel. Check that out. The Dynasty Deal Show, myself, Ty, and Scott. But Gabe says you got about 85 cents on the dollar, but the flexibility is good. Be nice. I think that's just.
I think he said. I think he reflected it to could be nice. So yeah,
could be nice. I thought he was just giving in general.
No, I mean, and he's right. You're probably selling at not full value, but at the same time, the flexibility on the bet in May could prove to be much better than what you could try to do with those two assets in September once the season
Yeah.
starts.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Sean Kittles, another gentleman from the Discord. How would you go about leaving a league that you run? I don't know that I really want to, but if the league is boring, not as active as you'd like, or you'd rather allocate that money you spend to new leagues, then what would you consider your options? So Brandon, first of all, do you commish any leagues?
No, I do
Okay.
not.
You don't commish any leagues. Okay.
But I have left plenty of leagues.
Okay.
So I think the general concept probably remains the same. It's just you're I mean, we've all left leagues. We've all left dynasty leagues, and I think it's just how you communicate it. Going back to that communication piece, right? It's just how you communicate it and just, you know, what is your relationship with league mates? Is it your 11 best buds from high school that you're in a home league with and you're just like, dudes, I'm bored as crap and I don't really I don't feel like I want to be in this league anymore. Like either somebody take it over or we're going to leave, or is it, you know, 11 people or 13 people that you found off a sleeper that you have no real connections to other than social media? Because you're going to react differently to them, right? You're going to react differently to
Yeah.
people who you're more closer to, and you're going to communicate with them more as opposed to 11 folks that you found randomly in a Reddit thread.
I'd say it's important to back to the communication, like you're saying. How is everyone going to be refunded? Understand that you're probably going to deal with some fallout because there's 3 or 4 teams that we're building for the future. You know what I mean? They housed 826 picks, 2026 picks, and they're like, bro, I'm looking forward to the future. I can't wait for that class. And now you're kind of taking that out on them. I might DM them directly, you know what I mean, and just be like, "Look, bro, or ma'am, or whatever you call, the people in your league. I'm sorry, but for whatever reason, I just don't enjoy this league. I know that for somehow you were active in this league, but no one else was. There's just not any trading, so I don't enjoy that. And I've left leagues because there's no trading at all, and because that's boring to me. You know what I mean? I get people like they build their teams and then they just want to sit on the roster because they think it's good, but to me it's fun trading. So I get that. So I guess communication's big, right? Just being upfront with people. Make a decision, right? Just be so we're not decisive. Don't go, hey guys, I'm kind of thinking about ending this league. I think I might end this league. No, I think I'm going to keep the league. You know what I mean? Don't flip flop back and forth. It's like when you drive, like either go or don't. Like the biggest thing that causes accidents is indecisiveness when someone can't figure out what to do because they can't figure out what you're doing. And then eventually you both crash. A little different, obviously. It's a league. It just pisses people off if you're indecisive. But I would say just be decisive with people.
Yeah, I mean that's really the biggest thing is don't just click delete nuke league and walk away. Like,
Yeah.
like don't do that because then you get a reputation and the fantasy community is too small for folks to not know who you are. Unfortunately, like I mean that's just the reality of it all. So just be upfront, be communicative. Try not to do it week 8. Try to do it, after week 18 of a league, or do it before the season starts. Like, yeah, because that's the last thing you want is to have to deal with that kind of animosity in the middle of the season while you're trying to navigate all the other stuff that you have in life.
Right. And just a message Lawrence says, I've only left one league unannounced as a commish. As the commish wasn't inactive, never collected dues, and was posting about new startup in leagues that they didn't sort the rookie draft. So I see these dudes or women, whoever, these commissioners on Facebook all the time, where there's these do not join leagues with blah, 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 blah. And yeah, I get it, man. I get it. Like, I definitely wouldn't want to join a league where, the commissioner is just AWOL and then starts another league. Big Diaz Energy points out, see if anyone else wants to take over the league. And I've been in leagues where commissions have left and they've put it to everyone in the league, like, hey, do any of you want to commish? Sometimes people take over and sometimes people are like, nah, if I wanted to commish, I would have, you know what I mean? So there's options for you. And that is one that you probably should investigate first, is just like, what does anybody want to take over? All right, let's go back to our questions. Now, this is a good one. Not that the other ones weren't. Just by saying that, it sounded like I said the other
They're
ones
all
weren't
good
right.
questions. They're all different. They all have different points of view.
It's like
That's how
your
I like
kids,
it.
right? You love them
Yeah.
all. You love them differently. They're all
Yeah,
great.
they all
You
have different
definitely
quirks.
you definitely have a favorite though. Broncos, 1 of 2. Broncos 23, 1 of 2. It's harder to gain an edge in dynasty leagues now that common tactics like tearing down, trading late first round picks for future ones, or rostering any backup quarterback or fringe running back have gone mainstream. What strategies are you using to stay ahead of the curve? Brandon, I know you've got some notes on this, so I'm going to let you
Yeah.
go off on this one.
Yeah. So when I saw this question, it's actually a good question because there is, there's a lot of content, and appreciate everybody that's here, whether you're here in the YouTube chat or whether you're on X, as we're streaming here. Make sure you like and subscribe so that way you can hear more of what the whole team talks about. But this is the kind of the stuff that really gets me going because it's a challenge, right? Like, what's the challenge because we talk all the time, Shane. You know this. Like in voice chat, we're talking so much about strategy and how to gain an edge and what is the actionable advice from this and blah blah blah. Like for me, if I'm a contender, one of the strategies I've started utilizing is using some of my off-season fob and buying late picks, like when we're in rookie drafts. So like if it's if it's a 3-round rookie draft and it's the 308, 309, I'll start spamming offers like 2 to 5% of my fab. Like, hey, I'll buy your pick. I'm gonna buy your pick because here's what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get ahead of the waiver wire where I ultimately have to end up paying probably 30 to 50% on a bunch of dudes that ultimately I could probably buy for $5 because when it's the 310 and somebody hands you 5 fab because you don't want to make that pick, you're more likely to say, yeah, give me the $5. I don't care. I don't really want to make this 6th, 3rd round pick. So like that's something that I'm starting to do to try and get ahead of the waiver wire because ultimately we all know the first waiver run that goes in your league, we see all these crazy numbers being dropped on, Woody Marks went for $275. Well, why? When you could have spent probably like $50 of that and bought the pick. So like that's something that I'm trying to do there. The other thing is on the flip side, if I'm trying to rebuild, is if I've got some old crusties that I've just been like buying up some old veterans. Like I've got one league right now, and I know there's a few people in the chat, but like I've got Nick Chubb and I've got Amari Cooper and I've got Miles Sanders. I got a bunch of these guys that just like nobody really wants one of them in a 1-for-1 for like the 310, the 312, right? But can I put a whole bunch of them together to try and get a third? Or if somebody has, or on the flip side, if somebody has a bunch of those guys and they're taking up roster spots because you, Shane, the contender, see that there's probably about 2 or 3 guys on the waiver wire, but you're already at the maximum limit. Can I buy some of those like really ugly duds and throw a third on there and give you something that you actually might want, like a wide receiver 2? Like maybe I can give you like Devonta Smith and I get your late first, but I also get your let's go with Amari Cooper and give me wide receiver like 96. I don't even care who it is. Because what I'm trying to do on the rebuilder side is gain the flexibility of that extra roster space so that I could just cut the guy and I could just keep churning and burning. But for you, what I'm giving you is also the shiny tool of the Devonta Smith. So does that make sense? Like I'm getting the future pick plus I'm getting the roster space.
No, yeah, I got you. I mean, so for me, look, there's limited things you can do. One of the simple things is just start making bets, like make hard bets on players, right? Like I am going all in, and I'm not going all in, but like I'll overpay for I'm a league neighbors. I'll overpay for like last year before the season. I was overpaying for Devon Chain because I had the feeling, not the feeling, but just based on what I saw in his rookie year, I said this dude's going to smash, and that's one of the things you're going to have to do. And strategies get more common or more used, I think you're going to have to make more player take bets. And I know we're not all comfortable in that, but there are a lot of metrics out there that you can use to actually help you make those bets. Yeah, here's one from Matthew Wiggins. Start buying the players everyone podcasters is telling you to sell. I am Captain Zag, right? Anything the community is doing generally, I want to zig from. And when the community started doing things that me and Scott and with Clay, Trades and Five started putting out there, I got to the point where I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like I don't want to, for years, and this is not just Trades and Five, but for years, yeah, it was to trade back in the first to get an extra pick. And I said, no, well, I don't want to do that anymore. Let me trade up and get 2 QBs, elite QBs. It didn't work. The reason it didn't work is because I overestimated the actual elite QB range at the time. And what I should have done is said, you know what? It doesn't matter if it's an elite QB or an elite wide receiver, either or, right? You get so fixated on it being super flex, and you're like, oh, I have to have 2 quarterbacks in that. No, you don't. You just need one, QB ugly, right? You can have one elite quarterback, and then you have an elite wide receiver that's just as good as an elite quarterback in many cases. If I got Justin Jefferson out there, if you have Jamar Chase, Malik Neighbors, etc., right? Like these are guys that are going to outscore a good number of the quarterbacks, especially when you're drafting them at like 108 or so, when you're already starting to dip into that next range of quarterback. Last year, Ryan Brolo, Shane said to get likable players. Last year was Ladd. This year it's Scadaboo. And that's true, right? You have to get rid of this. I'll figure this out how to do this one. But getting players that give you more outs is always a good thing. And I talked about this for, not even just last year, but last year, I think a little more. If you buy a player just because you think they're going to produce and the community doesn't like them and then they don't produce, what do you have? You have absolutely nothing. But if you get a player that you think is going to produce and the community likes them, if they don't produce, they're still going to hold some value. They might not hold all the value, but they're still going to hold some of the value, whereas the other player is going to hold none of the value. So that is one of the things I like to do is finding players the community likes. Like, yes, Scadaboo. The community absolutely loves Scadaboo. That's a dude.
I feel like the top 6 running backs are ones that everybody likes for the most. I mean, Harvey's probably the one that probably you could argue is probably like on the outside looking in, but like Genty, Hampton, Henderson, Judkins, Caleb. There is a following within those 5 guys that if they were to be all in the running back 20 to 37 range, 20 to 36 range, like people would have a story to tell themselves that they could move forward with for 2026.
Absolutely. But Scadaboo's cheaper than those dudes. That's the only thing. So Gabe says in lineup leagues, when you have an abundance of players, keep one extra player at each possession and sell everything else for picks, even if it's 80 to 85 cents. De-risk yourself is key. You can always buy them later.
Yeah, I think that's probably the strategy, right? Is when you're convicted on a player, if you got to pay a little bit more, maybe that's the new strategy. It's not really a strategy, but it's just more of a be more convicted.
Let's see. Do
we want to talk about the Tush Push? I was going to say, do we want to talk about the Tush Push?
We could bring up the Tush Push. So,
because that happened this week. We got the Tush Push back.
We did get the
we almost lost it. We almost lost it. Jason Kelsey literally pushed it over the end line the other way, and we got it back. So, how do you feel about the Tush Push?
It's funny, right? Because I don't like the play. I'll put it like the very first time I saw the Eagles do it. First of all, I was like, "How is this not a penalty? They're pushing this man," and no one knew apparently that they had changed the rule. But finally, I figured out they changed the rule. I don't like it because I think it actually stifles the offense, right? So instead of play action on 4th and 1, 3rd and 1. That would probably be pretty effective, right? Like that's the time you want to hit someone with a play actions when it's 3rd and 1. They do this play, which at the most, if everything goes right, they're getting 3 yards, And yeah, I know there's a high conversion rate, and I'll go through some of those stats now. And they're actually not even the best team at it. Actually, the Bills are from a first down perspective. The Bills, let's see, they had a success rate, including first down attempts on their first down attempts, or converting for first downs 88% of the time. They had a conversion rate of 88%. The Eagles only 85%. Where the Eagles really, really make their hay and the play really makes its money is the end zone, right? Or the goal line. It's the 1 yard line. And I can't find it, but I would be absolutely surprised and shocked if the Eagles don't have the most plays that end at the 1 yard line in the National Football League over the last 3 years.
There's got to be a magnet. I mean, I remember the DeAndre Swift year.
Yeah.
Right. That year was he had to have had at least 13 or 14 of them where it was just like Kelsey would tap him on the back like, sorry, dude, but you know it's coming.
Yeah. And here's the thing, though, right? So I know he had, let's see, how many touchdowns did he have? He had like 15 or so last year. If you go back to, let me go back to 2021, my dude, our head, sorry, I'm just trying to find the rushing yards. I don't know why I can't find rushing. There we go, rushing yards. 2021, he had touchdowns. 10 rushing touchdowns. In 2022, he had 13. So he already had rushing touchdowns before the tush push. So even if they took it away from him, they would just QB sneak.
Yeah, I feel like that's what people don't realize is like he's still like Jalen Hurts is still a guy that like, all right, you take Saquon out from behind him, and he's still probably one of the top 5 strongest dudes
right
in the league.
Yeah. So I think it's for fantasy purposes, I think it gives people this sense of security. Well, Jalen's just going to get those touchdowns because he's got the tush push. My thinking, and I kept saying it in the chat, was I don't care if they take the play away. It's good. It's fine. Jalen's still going to rush for a lot of touchdowns because he's done it. That's what he does. If they get down to the 1 yard line, they're going to QB sneak it. At 3rd and 1 at the 40, instead of running for a yard, they're going to throw a 40-yard bomb. And you don't think he can hit those, then you haven't watched football, because Jalen Hurts is super skill is not running. It's the deep pass. My dude, if you saw it in the Super Bowl when he hit Devonta on that, he's done it 1,000 times, probably a little less than that with A.J. Brown. Me, personally, I would prefer to see that on 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, at least once in a while. But it's every time they're in that situation, literally every time they're in the situation where it's 1 yard to go, it's a tush push. I'm fine with it in the end zone. I wish in the middle of the field it was something different. So
that's fair enough. Yeah, a little wear and tear on the body. I get it.
So look, I'm fine that it stayed. I actually would have preferred it got voted down, except that, so I was in this dichotomy, right? Because I'm from Philly. I don't want them to vote it away because screw everyone else for trying to come at Philly. But from a fantasy perspective, if they would have outlawed it, I could have gotten Jalen Hurts on a discount, and I guarantee you his stats would not have hurt for it.
Yeah,
So
that's what I was kind of hoping for. I think I was in the same boat. It's like, man, if people can start to think that like Joe Burrow and Jalen Hurts are going to be the same, like, sure. Like they're in that same tier. Sure.
Right. And that's it. That's the weird part of the discussion, is that people were acting like, well, Hurts is never going to QB sneak. Like instead, like just they're not going to do any QB sneaks, and instead of
Saquon's going to have
offense.
Yeah, I was seeing tweets of Saquon Barkley having Liquidating Tomlinson like seasons, like that was going to happen.
Maybe it would have,
possibly,
right? But I don't know. But I know Jalen Hurts still would have had at least 10 to 15 rushing touchdowns, because it's what he's done every year of his career, even when he didn't have the tush push. I don't know what he did in college, because I'll be honest with you, I am not.
He didn't rush it nearly as much. He didn't need to rush it nearly as much as Alabama. They had running backs galore out of there.
Yeah,
pretty sure he was there. I want to say when he was there, that was the Josh Jacobs years.
But okay, yeah, all right. So,
I'll look that up in a moment here. I'll look that up.
But for whatever, I don't know why, but the Eagles, ton of plays that just ended to 1. And here's the other thing: like they only needed 2 more votes. That play is gone in another year. It is absolutely gone. There's no way they're not getting rid of it. The Eagles are going to go out there, win another Super Bowl. Everyone's going to be sad and find some way, because they can't stop the play. So they're going to go ahead and try to outlaw the play, because they can't man up and stop it. And by the way, there's a Tyson DeGrassi video on the tush push where he explains why it's unstoppable. It's actually really, really interesting and a fun watch. So that's my thoughts on the tush push. All right. Dragon Ball Z, any regrets in drafting a rookie, or moves you didn't make in rookie drafts? Did you pick a player because of value, or could trade and just hate drafting him? Any regrets in drafting rookies, or moves you didn't make or did make during the rookie drafts? Okay. I have regrets. You know what my regret is? Is not being more aggressive in trading back. I had a lot of picks in that 106 to 109 range, and I did not move back in nearly enough drafts. I don't even know what the number is. Smart play would have been any pick, any league I had the 105 to 107 in, just trade back, get extra capital. Second, sure. Third, whatever. Because running back wise, I didn't really care if I got Judkins, Caleb, or RJ Harvey. I was fine with that. If one of those three would have, all three of those would have been off the board, that probably means that I would have gotten Tet McMillan, and I would have been fine with any of those four players. So that's my biggest regret is I did not move back in drafts nearly enough. As far as drafting players, I don't really have any regrets there either. I wish I would have gotten a little more Trey Harris, but that's just how the drafts fell. Things in my control was not trading back enough.
Yeah, I know it sounds weird, but like I wish I would have had a little more Genty and Hampton.
Hmm?
I wasn't aggressive enough coming up. I was always too busy going the other direction because I felt like one of the regrets is I think I traded too many. I had a lot of like 201s to 204s, and I just kept pushing them back because I kept seeing guys that were there, and I'm like, I could push back, I could keep moving back, and then all of a sudden I kept landing with a bunch of 208s to 212s, and I'm like, I went a little too far. A little too far on these ones, So like that was like in terms of strategy, I probably should have just stuck a couple times and just said, you know what, make my bet and live with it, right? Whether it's Seattle, whether it's Trey Harris, whether it's Jackson Dart, whoever it was, like just don't just fall into the I'm rebuilding, therefore I need more assets instead of just saying, you know what, this asset might be pretty safe, at least for this season. Like let's take that instead of taking, the pray and spray approach. And let's hope that these 17 darts out of 17 of them, 3 of them work, like that. It's probably not a long-term success story on how you're going to flip a team from being at the bottom to the top. Like at some point you got to have good players.
So, Brolo, what up, Brolo? Is it worth it to trade back for minimal return, or would you rather stick and pick your top guy in that tier? Example, only getting a fourth to move to 107 to 109. That's a good point. So, yeah, I did say take anything, but no, I'm not taking a fourth. I probably won't even take in a third. I would have probably tried this, give me a second and I'll give you a third back, and then I'll drop back a couple picks, something like that. But honestly, I didn't even put those out there. So that's really my fault. I can't even say if those wouldn't have worked. You know what I mean? If the best I could have done was a fourth.
If the best I could do is a fourth, I'd probably try to find a way to, smooth talk it up to a third, whether that's giving up a fourth to get a third back. Like I'm fine getting a third back. I don't care. Like again, the difference between Harvey, Caleb, Quinshon in the community's eyes is not much.
Right.
So if I can get
a third.
If I can just get the third, I mean, and I saw Big Diaz do it. So even if it's the 310, like, okay, cool. But if it's like a fourth, see if you could toss your fourth and see if you can maybe move up into third. It might only be like 5 or 6 slots, but it'll feel a little better. And that way, you get out of the fourth round, because nobody who's contending really wants to be taking picks in the fourth round, because those are just going to be roster spots that are probably going to be wasted instead of taking like a veteran.
Oh, yes, sir. All right, let's hit another question from the crowd, because I appreciate the crowd showing up. We got Thomas Richards. I channeled my inner Shane and traded Bucky for Rashee Rice. I depleted all of my liquidity in the playoffs last year and needed to get my hands on something with more long-term stability. Feeling good. But just devil's advocate, does Rashee Rice give you more long-term stability than Bucky coming off an injury?
So what, we're saying Bucky for a first?
I mean, Rashee Rice
roughly
first in value.
Out of first.
Yeah.
I mean,
early first.
I would say if you have a plan that if it goes sideways, yeah, that's fine. But if you're just doing it because you wanted, something with more long-term stability, Rashee Rice probably isn't, might not be the model of stability. But
okay.
I mean, it's a bet. It's a health bet. I mean, if you're betting that Rashee Rice returns to late 2023, early 2024 numbers, then sure, yeah, cool. But I think there might have been better ways to do it, but that's fine.
And
he's got a plan. I'm gonna hope he has a plan. That's all I'm gonna say. I hope he has a plan.
And that was just me devil advocating, because I would absolutely move Bucky for Rashee Rice immediately. So I like that deal. Kirk Amborn, rebuild mistake. He had Neighbors and Jaden Daniels in a 10-team single QB PPR start 8. Neighbors and Daniels. He had no picks and was stuck in the middle with team. He traded them apparently for the 105, 201, 202, 205, 301 this year, a couple first and second for 2026.
What other picks did you have if you're still in the chat? Because you couldn't have had those two. And I would hope you had more than just those two and no picks.
Yeah, let's just go back. I don't see anything else. Sorry, this league is the most vanilla setting imaginable. It was my first Dynasty league. At least there were 6-point passing touchdowns. He can trade Jonathan Taylor for the 107 Pickens and Purcell. He has an offer now to get a Dunze for the 202, 205, 207. Okay, it's a start 8, right? 1 QB. He said had Neighbors and Jaden Daniels, which to me means he moved them, which is an absolute mistake in a start 8. And 1 QB, I've talked about this before. The quarterbacks that I want to roster in 1 QB, now it's Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, whom I think forgetting. There's another running guy, another mobile boy.
Lamar?
Lamar, no. Is it Drake May? Drake May is the type of quarterback, right? Like, so I like Drake May. He's not there yet, but you know what I mean? Like, those are the types of quarterbacks I like Josh Allen, Drake May,
Bo Nix.
Jalen. Bo Nix, now you can add to that mix.
You can put Bo in the category. Bo's like the Walmart version of a wall.
No, look, I hated a lot on Bo Nix, but dude, he is the type of quarterback I want in the 1 QB league because he gives me that rushing ability. I need someone that can put up those crooked scores, right? I like Joe Burrow enough, but Joe Burrow doesn't have that rushing ability, so that if he drops from 40 touchdowns to just air quotes 32, his scoring takes a giant ding. Again, it's start 8. I'm absolutely not moving Neighbors for just picks. I'm going to need a player and a pick, a player and a bunch of picks. Going back to the trade you have on the board, you can trade Jonathan Taylor for the 107 Pickens and Purcell. It's start 8. Purcell and Pickens, fine. I'm fine starting.
I was going to say 107 and Pickens.
107 and Pickens is okay. It's okay. I'm not, you know what? The 107 and Pickens isn't bad. It actually isn't bad because
if I can get what, Judkins? No, can I get Judkins?
It's start 8. It's 1 QB.
All right, so let's do the math.
Take 1 QB.
Genty.
That's it.
Yeah, I mean, so it's what? And I mean, in Cam Ward in some leagues is going.
So it's RJ Harvey. Yeah, it's Judkins, RJ Harvey, or yeah. I'm actually okay with that. Talking through it, and you got Purcell, who's a free square. You can get ahead and just go ahead and what's what I'm looking for. Use him as something to move. So I'm actually not too bad with that.
I would have kept the Odunze deal. I wouldn't have done the 202 to 205 and Pollard for him.
Right.
That's too many lawn darts to be shooting. If you make the bet on the Odunze, if it doesn't work, he's probably still got a little bit of value going into 2026.
Absolutely. All right. Ned Wising. Nope. 12 teams, start 10. PPR, tight end premium. Yeah, not a chance. What would you add to a chain to get Puka, Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, Saquon, A-Chain, Montgomery, A.J. Brown, DJ Moore, Sutton, McBride, Kittle?
So he's asking what you need to add on top. What A-Chain plus what gets him Puka?
Oh, period. And then he gave me his team.
He gave you the roster. Yeah. So he has the 2 studs at quarterback. He's got Saquon, A-Chain. I'm assuming that's David Montgomery. And he's got A.J. Brown, DJ Moore, Sutton. Okay. And then he's got the 2. My first thought is DJ. Can I give DJ Moore and A-Chan to get Puka? And can you give me something back on the backside? And now I got A.J. Brown, Puka, and Cortland Sutton.
Oh, man, I hate
Is that too much?
No. Honestly, I'm fine giving up a chain, and if all it takes is DJ Moore, I'm fine with that. I don't even need anything back. I understand we always ask for something back, right?
Yep. Yeah, I knew who you were, Ned. I knew who you were. You're a wheezing Ned. I knew who you were. I appreciate you.
Yeah, Ned, that's my own problems with English that made me
Yeah,
stop it, Ned.
we're just gonna leave it there.
Yeah, that's a me problem, Ned. So just to the point though, like you're saying I'm asking for something back, right? Because that's a negotiation tactic.
Yeah,
I don't really have to have something back, but if I don't at least ask, then I'm starting from a position of going, wait a minute. Um, I'm only, I'm already saying I'll give up a chain and DJ more, and I'm not asking for anything back. So if you do want to counter, you know what you're going to do? You're going to add something to my side, like, no, and I still need. Now, if I ask for something back on that deal and you counter, chances are you're going to take something off of, what you were going to give back to me. And I end up where I was going to end up anyway.
yeah. Does he have does there like a Najee? Is there a James Conner? Like just something to basically fill in behind Saquon. Like that's how I look at it. Like, can I get something to fill in behind Saquon?
Okay.
That's because then I have AJ and Puka. I got Saquon. I got the two. I got the two quarterbacks. I got the two tight ends. I'm good. I'm ready
All
to
right.
roll. I could just rotate that RB2 spot week in, week out.
Oh boy, we got a lot of questions from the inside. Let's go. Boyan from Discord. Genuine question, and it might be simple. How do people juggle tons of fantasy leagues while in real life stuff is going on? Brandon, you go first, my friend.
How do you do it? You do the best you can. I mean, I'll be very transparent. Like I'm in charge of a youth program that takes a lot of my time. I'm a CEO along with my wife. That takes a lot of my time. I work for a nonprofit, so I'm out there a lot of the days just working. But I also am blessed being the boss that I do have a little bit of time to kind of carve out if I want to be to work on my fantasy football stuff. Um, I think the biggest thing is balance. I think we talked about it last week, like knowing how many leagues you can actually manage versus just taking them on because your friends in the Discord are nudging you to take another $50 league on. Like if you don't have the capacity and the bandwidth to be, another manager, like the worst thing you can be in a league is inactive.
Mm.
I think we all can agree on that. Like the worst person in our league is the inactive ones. It's not the ones who are the best at fan dynasty or the ones who talk a lot of smack. It's the most inactive ones are the ones that probably irritate us all the most
Okay.
because you can't talk with them, you can't engage with them, you don't know what they're going to, and they're the ones who usually are the ones that'll trade like Jaden Daniels for 2026 first, and neither one of them are the 101. And then you're like, what just happened? Like, so I think the biggest thing is how do you juggle it is first off, knowing what your capacity is, not financially, but actual time wise. Like, what are you willing to give to it? Yeah. Especially, we talked about it last week, lineup leagues versus best ball leagues. Best ball leagues are a little bit easier to maintain in the sense that I don't have to devote as much time on Sunday mornings for tweaking, but I do have a responsibility to them because I do have to clean up the back end of the rosters week in, week out, because there are guys that cycle in and cycle out. So I do have to devote time to it. But I think that's just the biggest thing is knowing what you can afford based on the time management that you have. Because Shane, you're a dad. I'm a dad. I got a 3.5-year-old that's going to bed too. Like trying to also be present in our kids' lives is sometimes even more important than did I get you to cry? On a
Yeah,
screen.
a little bit.
We've got family, like we all have families too. And there's a lot of people here, thanks to the people that are here tonight on Saturday night. You're with us at 10 to 10. Like you're spending time with
Hey,
us.
so
And it's like, how do you juggle it all?
and I'll say this, right? So I'm not a CEO, but I do oversee a fairly large department. I am a director in real life. Yes, I am managing people, as hard as that might be to believe for some people actually hearing me. So, yeah, it's not like I have like all this free time. There's a lot of OCD issues that I have, which will force you to do it. But also, I found the balance. At one point, I was up to 50 leagues and I couldn't do it successfully. There is the fact that I don't do, and there are no other hobbies. This is my hobby. You know what I mean? Like, this is literally it. I listen to fantasy football podcasts in my shower. I listen to them on the way to work. Luckily, I have a desk job in my role. I sit at a desk a lot. I do have to go to meetings and run around a lot, but whenever I'm at my desk, I'm listening to fantasy football podcasts. I spend a lot of time on my phone, a whole lot of time on my phone, probably more than I should. But what I have learned as I've gotten older is I do have to disconnect when it is things involving my children. I will say that anyone that's in a lot of leagues, don't make that mistake. I made that mistake when I was younger, where fantasy football took too much precedent over things. And then me and my wife split up, and then I understood how important quality time is with your kids, because the one thing you can never get back in life is time. Once time is gone, there's no getting it back. So if it's too much for you to do, and it's taking time away from the actual important things in your life, your children, your significant other, if for some reason you want to be with another human, it's time to redo it. But there are also tools you can use. Fantasy Pros, Dynasty Assistant. Someone said it in here. Dynasty Assistant, I believe it is. Dynasty Daddy helps me. There's those tools. Fantasy Pros has the lineup thing where it will set your lineups for you, and you can punt. If some of your teams aren't good, do that. Use that on those leagues. You know what I mean? Like, you're punting this year, screw it, I'm sending it there. Yeah, Sleeper, it has some glitches, but I will say this: when you want to do waivers, it's a lot easier doing it on Sleeper than it ever was on MFL. Sleeper, it's literally, where's this player available? Add.
It's brutal on MFL.
Right.
Brutal.
This player was cut. It's time to move on. Cut. You know what I mean? So I know Sleeper has some issues lately. All in all, it's still my favorite. But, and some people use spreadsheets. That helps them. It's literally just find what works best for you. It's like anything in life, I think, is my.
It's a good question, though. I mean, we talk about fantasy football because we're here tonight because we love it. We're not here because of finding financial. Like, we are here simply because we actually love doing this. And if there was something that was going on with our families, I guarantee you one of us would have said, "You know what? It's not happening tonight. We'll rain check for next week." Like, that's just it's just how both of us operate. And, and it's instilled too by Ray. That's the other thing. It's like, leadership at the top here is like,
take a week off after the draft. Yeah,
like, we are advocates of what Ray preaches. Time management and being with family, being present. So I think that's probably just something that we need to stress here, even for 2.5 minutes. Is time management with your family is important.
Yeah, that's more important than anything. Absolutely. And Scott, my kids are usually with their mom during the week. I don't get to see them as much as I want. Sometimes there's times where it demands that I go see them. It's my kid's basketball game. I can't, there's some issue with my son at school. I need to be with him. That I'm not doing a show that night. You know what I mean? And I've been lucky that for whatever reason, it hasn't really come up a lot. You know what I mean? Like, when things have come up, it's usually on a night that I'm free. But if I'm not, fuck a show. You know what I mean? The family's more important. That's for fantasy football or anything. Anyway.
All right. Now that we're out of the deep stuff,
let's go to this was a fun one, right? Thank you. They're all fun. They are all fun. Sloppy Eric, right? I did some research on this one, so I was excited about this. Sloppy Eric, do you feel the need to sell players if they're on the same offense? For example, I have Hurts, Barkley, and AJ Brown. All the studs concentrated on one team. Maybe don't use the Eagles since you're biased. No, I will use the Eagles, and I am super biased, everyone that knows me. So just going back, let's see. I went ahead and looked at the Philadelphia Eagles. In 2024, they had the QB 6, the running back 1, and the wide receiver 12, and wide receiver 15. That's just 1 year, right? They can't possibly do something like that ever again. 2023, they had the QB 2, the wide receiver 5, the running back 20, the wide receiver 20, and the running back 24. 22, they had the QB 1, wide receiver 8, wide receiver 14, and running back 21. Cincinnati, last year, QB 3, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 5, and the running back 14. And If you just look at Chase Brown's stats after Zach Moss went away, 20.6 points per game, he would have been the running back 3. In 2023, they had the wide receiver 11 and the running back 11. Baltimore last year had the quarterback 1 and running back 2. This is all overall. Atlanta last year, the running back 3 and the wide receiver 14. The Rams last year, running back 10, wide receiver 2. All this to say, I don't feel obligated to sell players off of good offenses. And these are really good offenses, obviously. So if I have players concentrated on that roster, I don't feel the need to sell. Do I have them concentrated on the Indianapolis Colts? Do I have them concentrated on the Cleveland Browns? Do I have Jerry Jeudy, Quinshon Judkins, and David Njoku? I'm feeling a little more concerned about that than I would about A.J. Brown, Saquon Barkley, and Dallas Goedert. So, no, I don't feel the need to move them at all.
I think it also is relative to their dynasty cost too, Shane.
Yeah.
Like in the instance of looking at like a Cincinnati or a Philadelphia, like all 3 of those players in all 3 of the, in those situations, like they're all players that folks want. So I don't think I'm going to have nearly as hard of a time trying to move them as if you just said, right, like the Cleveland Browns. Like they might be desirable assets, but they're bad offense. They're a rougher offense to like it's harder for folks to be like, yeah, I really want to buy into that offense. So if it's an offense, like you said, if it's an offense that definitely like the Rams offense, right? Puka, Devontae Adams, Kyron Williams, or whoever takes over in that backfield, right? Whenever his time comes, right? Or whenever Devontae Adams is inserted.
That just sounded really morbid.
I know it sounded grim, like 2025.
Jesus.
but those are the kind of offenses that people want to buy into. And I don't think it really makes, like, if I have a couple of them and it really, even especially in best ball, I'll hold on to them because you know what? Odds are one of them's going to hit fire each week. And there's a really good chance that if it's an offensive fireworks, I might get 2 of them. So that's fine for me. Like, yeah, I'm not just selling them just because I have them. Right. I'm selling them because if I'm moving off of them, I'm moving off of them because they actually can provide additional value to my team.
Yep. Ned. Appreciate that, my friend. Thank you for the super chat, Ned. All right. I want to hit a couple more questions. Boy, that is a long question right there. And I think I absolutely deleted part of it, but yeah, sure. Screw it. Cody Danielson, at this point of the year, what are your main goals for roster construction? I think it was Shane and Scott. You guys talked about liquidating assets like middling wide receivers. To what extent do you try to clear out those replaceable assets, even if to do so, you'd have to get nowhere near their value? At what point should we be okay with holding on to hopefuls if we don't get enough for some value? Some names come to mind like Keon Coleman, Coker, McMillan, Jalen McMillan. I'm going to assume that is not Ted.
Yeah, it's got to be Jalen. Guys that are probably, if I sold any one of those dudes, you're probably giving me what? At best, late second. Probably a 3rd round pick, though, on most of them.
Yeah, Coker probably closer to a 3rd. McMillan's an interesting one because he looked so good last year, and then all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, but they add another wide receiver, re-sign every wide receiver that was there.
Yeah, doesn't feel good, but it's a good offense, so it's like one of those, like, you're more tempted to hold on to them.
So this for me is actually pretty easy, right? So I'll just answer this last point because I think this is the important part: is there a reasonable and probable path to this player increasing in value? Am I okay with losing out on the value that I could get right now if I don't move them? Right. So if I can only get a 3rd for Jalen Coker, I'm not pressed to move him because there is a chance that he could exceed that, right? He could gain value, maybe to a 2nd, even if I have to add something to him. But if he doesn't, what I lost out on was getting a 3rd round draft pick back. Whatever. You know what I mean? Keon Coleman, if I could get a 2nd for him, that's a little harder of a decision. If I don't move him and then he bombs and I lost out on a 2nd, I would be disappointed. and I wouldn't be happy because that second, we're at 666 views. That's bad. If I lost out on that second, I would not be happy because a second is a really usable asset, especially during the season. So I think, again, it depends upon the probability, a probable path to increasing in value and what the value is right now. If it's a third or lower, I'll just hold, you know what I mean? Unless there's absolutely no chance of them ever increasing in value.
Yeah, I think this question is a little bit, I don't want to say it's bad, but it's different when you're looking at it from a lens of best ball versus looking at it at a lens from lineup. You know, because a guy like Keon Coleman or a guy like Jalen McMillan, they can sit as a 0 probably for a month and a half. But if you're talking to Scott doesn't want those guys. He wants them off. He literally wants them off his roster for whatever he could possibly get. And he wants the free roster spot because he wants to be able to cycle in and out, especially in best ball. You want to cycle in and out as many of those, the bottom 5 of your roster, right? Like if you're a start 11 and you got roughly 20 guys that are week in, week out, probably startable guys, you want to try to have the bottom 10 to 12 roster spots of guys that are just long darts that, hey, Jalen McMillan gets in on a play and busts one loose for 73 yards and gets a touchdown and he instantly hits your flex. But in lineup, like, yeah, I'm with Shane. Like, I could probably sit there and wait because, you know, if they can get a realistic path, like what happens if what happened last year in Tampa Bay, right? Evans pulls a hamstring, Godwin breaks his ankle, you know, gets a major injury, you know, knock on wood. You know, like now all of a sudden it's Igbuka and McMillan are the 2 primary wide receivers. Now all of a sudden there's your window to move the McMillan. You know what I mean? Like you got to tell yourself the story. Like how many barriers are in front of you, in front of that player to getting meaningful snaps, to making them somebody that is like none of the 3 assets that were listed. There's not a single person actively out there buying Keon Coleman, Jalen Coker, or Jalen McMillan right now. They're not. Nobody's pounding the table saying and going buying those 3. Like there's just not a lot of value in them other than what it is to your roster. Yep. So you just got to wait for the moment. And then when the moment comes, do you take that or do you just say, I'm just going to ride the production? And that's fine too. That could be fine too. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yep.
As long as you know what your plan is.
Dragon Balls 5. Can you name a few running backs that finish outside the top 10 in 2024, but have upside that could finish inside the top 10 for 2025? Looking for buy low running backs to target in the offseason. Those almost feel like 2 different questions.
It does feel like 2 questions because there's like Bucky Irving's 13.
Mm-hmm.
Right. He's not a buy low running back. He ain't low. The only thing you're getting low out of him is, you know, is it
Brees
first
Hall?
plus?
Brees Hall. That's not a buy low.
I mean, the one that sticks out to me is CMC. He's not even in. I mean, he's probably the one that, you know, if he's healthy and he's getting 85% snap share, he's probably going to end up being in the top 10%. You know, they just paid Brock. Like, so they pretty much have locked that offense in for quite some time now. Like, at this point, I mean, I'm looking at the list. I'm looking at the list from last year. Jonathan Taylor was 12. James Conner was 11. Brees Hall, Joe Mixon at 17, probably not. Monty at 18, probably not, unless he has like some crazy touchdown regression.
I would, you know who I'm looking at on that list? Let me bring it back up because I already forgot. Chuba.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's buy low, but it's buy steady because even though that dude had a really good year, I don't know that the community buys in like they should. Like if I could trade, going back to my favorite whipping boy for whatever reason, but like if I could move Bucky for him and any plus, I would do it.
Yeah.
CMC was injured. Yes.
Yeah. Can we look at the top 10? Let's flip the question. Who's inside the top 10 that won't finish there in 2025?
Okay. I like James Cook. James Cook could have some touchdown regression that would absolutely affect that. Also, I'm looking at that. It clearly did not filter this by points per game. So that's great. Kyron. I'll keep going to Kyron. Kyron could fall out. James Conner, if he's in there, actually. And again, I'm sorry I put these on here by overall points, which is just I don't know.
It's okay. We're just at least it's consistent, right?
That's just, I would say Kyron and who did I
Chase
say?
Brown.
James Cook are my guys that I think would fall out.
I think
Chase,
Chase Brown at 10. Like that's another guy that like he's probably top
I,
15, but he's not top 10.
I don't know, man. I just
Okay.
told you
I'm
top
is that
three without Zach Moss. Although Zach
Zach
Moss
Moss is
might be coming
there?
back.
You
Taj
know,
Brooks is getting
how
added.
do you feel about Alvin Kamara? He was 8th.
Dude,
I know.
I'm not giving up on. I'm not.
Okay. All right.
No.
I'm just asking.
No.
I'm not saying like these are the guys that we quote unquote sell, but
Right.
like these are guys that like we may need to like they're not going to repeat top 10 in 2025. Like there's a chance they finish in 12th or 13th and they're not top 10.
Yeah.
But they don't fit that equation.
All right. So there is a question that Sean had. Did I delete it? Oh, no. So Sean asked this Kittle's Crew. He asked this a couple weeks ago and I didn't get to it, but I just wanted to get it to him now. I just give him some. What type of advice, suggestions would you give to someone who wants to get into the content creator space for Dynasty?
Ooh. Well, you're a long tooth in the game. I'm just kind of starting, at least on the forward facing stuff. But one thing that Ray always tells me is get reps. That's the biggest thing. It is one thing to talk like in a community, in a Discord, or even in a voice chat, or post your comment in YouTube. It's a whole nother thing when there's a green light in front of me and you're in a stream yard and you actually have to talk. It's a totally different. And no matter how gifted a speaker you are, because you know that's Shane and I is what we do on a daily basis. It's what we do for our jobs. Like we talk. It's a whole nother thing, man, when you're just sitting here in front of a camera and just talking. So the biggest thing you can do is self-record yourself for 15 minutes on a topic and just be honest with yourself. That's the biggest thing you can do to get yourself at least to start is get yourself comfortable behind a microphone. Then you can figure out the headphones, the microphone, the StreamYard, all that fun stuff that comes with it that wants to get into it. But it's really just getting reps and feeling comfortable about something you really like in Dynasty.
I would say have a level of authenticism. I'm not pronouncing it correctly, but, and this is my own mistake that I've made, and whatever. You get to certain levels when you play the game correctly, right? Learn how to play the game correctly is the one thing I would say. Learn how to network, right? I'm thinking on like you want to blow up, learn how to network, learn how to market yourself, learn what is going to sell, right? If you're a personality, fine, but find out what about your personality is going to sell, or what do you need to make that blow up. But the other perspective, from my own perspective, is be willing to think outside the box. Be willing to not just accept what people tell you as being correct, and be willing to work. I know people might not know this, but this is a lot of work. It actually is. Like, you know, there are some nights when honestly, yeah, I do just jump on here and we're going to free ball it, but that's few and far between. You know, there's a lot of time spent digging into stats. There is a ton of times where I do a lot of stat work and then never use it for a show. You know what I mean? It just because I get into it and I find out, oh, this probably isn't very interesting for a show, but I already spent 5 hours on it. So I might as well finish out at least getting the data that I was working on. So just work hard, be authentic, but don't go over the board with being authentic, right? You gotta play the game a little bit. You gotta know what people like, what sells. It's, you know, you could be great at this, but if you're not marketing yourself correctly, no one's going to see it. So that's all.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. Just enjoy it. I think
Yeah.
that's the other thing is enjoy it. You know, even with, you know, there's times where folks will say things to your face, not to your face, whatever. Just embrace it all. Enjoy it. Enjoy what you're like. If you're passionate about talking about football, block out the noise of one person in the sea of billions of people.
Yeah. All right. Big Diaz energy. Shane, you are literally the only fantasy bro that's championing Shuck. What the Shuck is going to happen with the Saints asset? And then Diaz gave us $2. Shuck the world.
I mean, Shuck was cool in 2017 when he was behind Justin Herbert. I mean, and as an Oregon Duck fan, like, hey, Shuck was a cool guy. And then, he got hurt and he was ineffective. He couldn't beat out Ty Thompson and he couldn't beat out Anthony Brown. Like, and he went to another offense and now he's got he got drafted early because a team needed a quarterback. And I'm not out on Shuck because he's 25, especially in Dynasty. I mean, we play Dynasty in such a fickle world now where it's literally redraft and keeper mixed together to a degree. Like, if Shuck performs and he does well early on, can you move him for something that's a little more stable? If you don't like him, because somebody's going to. That's the thing. Like, if Shuck goes out there and starts like Bo Nix did, you remember those first 2 games Bo Nix had? Where I remember vividly the game against Seattle where
we were watching it in the chat.
We were all watching it in the chat, and I remember you were just like, this is the guy that was drafted. Well, like, this is the guy. Like, if that happens with Shuck, people are going to be like, this is the guy they drafted early in the second round. But like, if he comes out and he's at least serviceable and he can be at least a steady bridge guy for, the time that he's here in the NFL, like, he's going to have value. And I think people just got to accept the fact that that's kind of where the NFL is. They're kind of cool with mediocrity. And if he turns into something great, man, the Saints landed on something big. If not, he's just going to be another guy in the system.
Yep. Look, I like Shuck. I think he's going to be fine. I don't think he's going to be an elite quarterback. I think Derek Carr. If I can get Derek Carr out of him, although Derek Carr did actually have an elite season or 2, I would be ecstatic. I think he's good for their assets because Spencer Rattler was absolutely atrocious. Sure, he's a nice kid, but he is absolutely terrible at football. So he can't be worse than what Spencer Rattler was last year, is my thought, assuming he stays healthy. All right, Ben Mason from the Discord as well, right? Real question. What is the most bottom feeder QB are you buying on the cheap right now in a win now QB needy team in best ball? Danny Dimes? Question mark.
I think he can go lower than Dimes.
Can you? What's the lowest you're going? He's asking.
I'm trying to think. Because Dimes is technically not the starter. He's like a. He's like a fringe starter.
He's an expected starter. He's an expected starter.
Yeah. Bet you can get Russ for cheaper.
Russ. So you probably get a couple starts out of Russ.
Yeah, I mean, because that's the thing. You're not like Ben is not buying him in best ball to start him 17 games. Right. Ben's buying him because he wants a QB3 and he needs maybe 2 starts out of the guy. So, like, I'm trying to think, like, how far down would I go?
I mean, let's look at the KTC QB rankings, right?
Yeah, I mean, because the reality is there's probably going to be about 45 to 55 quarterbacks to start this year. It's not going to be the same 32, right?
No,
and we can assume, and we can assume that, the rookie quarterbacks, like Cam Ward probably starts all season, but
Malik Willis.
I mean, I would take Malik.
Mason
I could go
Rudolph?
buy. Sure.
Drew Lock. Is Drew Lock the cutoff?
Drew Lock might be the cutoff, but I mean,
he's the
Drew
cutoff.
Lock's probably right on that tier.
Zach Wilson.
Where's that? He's behind Tua, right?
Yeah, he's behind Tua.
I'd be fine with some Zach. These are all guys that, like, I'm not spending a first to go get these guys. Like, these are like, I'm spending my 26th third, or I'm spending
Trey Lance.
No, that is nope.
Dorian Thompson-Robinson.
Nope. I'm going to get more from my wide receiver 3 than I am those dudes.
There you go.
Like, I want dudes that, like, realistically could possibly throw for 250 and a touchdown or 2. Dylan Gabriel, yeah, he's probably in there. He's probably higher up the rankings though, Diaz.
Yeah.
He's probably a little bit higher up the rankings. Like Zach Wilson, nobody wants Zach. Nobody cares for Zach. Zach Wilson might be on waivers in some leagues. Some, not all. I don't want to say all.
Gabriel's 37. Gabriel's in front of Kirk Cousins, actually, which is.
Do you want Pickett? Or are you trying? No. You're probably trying to unload that Pickett. You're trying to get me to say unload that Pickett.
Pickett is terrible. Oh my.
Pickett is terrible. But like, who's behind Cam Ward right now? I don't even know. This is terrible.
Will Levis, technically, and then
I
if
mean,
not him, Brandon Allen.
yeah. Would you want Will? Will through?
Yeah, I take Will.
I
Will's
take
actually
Will.
someone I want to buy because I think Will's going to get some starts in the NFL down the road.
Yeah.
Whether he's going to be any good, that's another story.
Exactly. Are they good? No, but at least if they're starting, or they have the potential, like if they're named the starter for that week for at least a window, I've got a chance to maybe move them.
Right. Yep. All right. That's Saturday night, man. Hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah,
appreciate everybody sticking with us. Appreciate all the questions. We did not get a chance to get to them all. I apologize. I'm still learning this hosting thing, how to pace and whatnot. So appreciate everyone that put questions in the Discord, everyone that put in questions in here. Ooh, there was a Twitter question that I missed that I'll just go answer on Twitter. So with that, I want to say thank you to everyone and have a great rest of your Saturday night and have a great Memorial Day weekend with your friends and family. Bye.